around the industry for about 20 years, since 2015 with Gates Air, and covering 16 states in Western Canada. So I just kind of put it on there because as you guys work with radio stations across the country in your groups as well, we see a lot of stuff, and so sometimes I'm able to share some insight of what I might be seeing in another market somewhere else, and it'd be good informational sharing. So, and that's Tony. He's been around for a long time too. If you guys haven't met him, he's Mr. Personality and always fun to be around. And yeah, I was gonna say, Chris, I was thinking Tony, I think mentioned one of the times that I think you and Jay Tyler do the snow, what is it, the snow machines. Yeah. So he said he likes hearing about those cool stories, or at least he shared it with me. So, so by way of interview, and if you guys want to chime in too, that's kind of why we built this presentation this way, to kind of get a feel for what challenges you're seeing for broadcasters. I'm seeing a lot of broadcasters looking at the service connection types that they have for their audio transport and video transport change drastically. We had to do a deep dive with a couple of larger radio groups that are working with basically IP brokers or connection brokers to source the best connection types in a whole bunch of different markets. And that really opened up my eyes to the challenges that radio groups and TV groups are seeing in terms of connections available. That's kind of why we thought, wow, anything out from the group here online tonight? Are you guys seeing any challenges, or what maybe might be the number one challenge, if anything comes to mind? I don't know. There's no raised hand like Zoom, so just chime in or interrupt me. That's okay. But that's what I'm seeing. Also seeing a lot of folks out there looking for cohesiveness, the same platform. We want to have everything easy to operate across the board, depending on whether it be our products or, other manufacturers. We're not the only ones in the pool to play the game. So they're looking at ease of manipulation, monitoring, configuration, stuff like that. What kind of connection types are available today? So a couple of presentations ago, I did a little more research, and you guys caught me at the end of the day. So I think my mind's maxed out, but there's obviously DSL, cradle point, using cell cards, T1 lines, SD WANs, fiber connections, black fiber connections, you name it. There's all of these different connection types available. It just so turns out that there's also, market demands that drive better infrastructure, and out in the rural areas, there's not. So finding the right type of connection can be a little bit of a mess to get down, or to identify at least. I think actually last time I was in Denver, I was working with, who was it? I stopped by, I think I saw Brad Hart, and he had basically like a networking broker guy come in, and he said, oh, here's all the different types of services that we can offer you, and here's the rates and how many we can provide and everything like that. So that was pretty cool. That was the first time I actually sat down with someone that does a lot of infrastructure leases or whatever you call it. How about you guys? Does everyone have good connection types to all your sites? No complaints? Maybe a little bit. I don't know. I see Paul and Chris saying, yeah, we're good. Oh, two-way radios too, right? WISP providers, that's huge. A lot of in the Midwest. So those are other solutions. I did the same presentation this morning with the guys in Seattle, and they have a company called ExcelNet, and they're all wireless WISP providers, and so they're shooting pathways from Seattle, bouncing it around to a couple different high rises, and then out to Cougar and the other Tiger sites. So that's out there. Are all IP connections created equal? This question's in here because I talk to a lot of general managers and radio station owners, and they just don't know. And so they think, oh, I can just buy this circuit or whatever, and it's going to work fine, and then it doesn't. and so they say, well, what happened? You know, what'd you guys sell me? It doesn't work. And then we kind of look at the configuration and stuff like that and figure it out. So I don't think all IP connections are created equal. Some devices also require a certain amount of bandwidth to operate. You know, it may be 10 or 20 megabits, and if that isn't there all the time 100%, then they just stop working. So they need a 100%, you know, secure type of bandwidth. What's the number one reason for stations calling me? I would say to fix something that's broke. A lot of times they waited too long. Unfortunately, I hear talking to, you know, general managers or, you know, even directors of engineering. Oh yeah, we're just limping that one along. And then I usually say, well, you're kind of running on borrowed time. So, you know, what are you going to do? Oh, we could probably get another 6 months out of it. So a lot of the calls, unfortunately, that I get are emergency calls. But then there's a lot of really, you know, forward-thinking planning engineers out there that say, hey, you know I don't have much time on this. It's going to be sunsetted pretty soon, so let's figure out what we can do. Oh, and the other one is we just got a notification that our T1 circuits are getting cut. So we have, you know, X amount of days or months to get our replacement found. So, oh, and by the way, we don't have any budget for it. So then what do we do? So there's definite challenges. The big elephant in the room is COVID. You know, the first few months of COVID, ad revenue just dropped. You know, the public stations were safe. I see Dean's on, so you know some of the public radio groups were good, but the commercial ones were not, and so they're still recuperating from that, very much so. So if you have to spend any money, it needs to really be stretched as much as possible. So now it's your guys' turn. Audience survey. Are you currently sending your signal point to point? I don't know what is GoToMeeting? I don't know how that works, if you raise your hand or not. Maybe I can see, help me out a little bit. Are you currently sending your signal point to point? Thumbs up, thumbs down, hand raise. 1. Paul, you're talking, I can't hear you though. So she says, okay, that's good. I mean, that's what most people are doing. That's what I see the most often. And then how about, do any of your signals need to go from studio to multiple destinations? And this is kind of a question for the TV side. How many folks are in TV actively? I'm looking at the tiles. Okay, no one? All right, I'm done. No, just kidding. Okay, so this is kind of where we're seeing a lot of other people going. I have one signal and I want to send it out to a bunch of different places, whether that be audio or video. So that being said, a couple years ago, 2018, we kind of had the beta release. 2019, we started actively selling. And last year, we had a lot of success with the Ascent Media Gateway. So it's the STL for both audio and video. Now, I probably botched the title there. It's actually a codec, so it's not going to be your STL for TV that's up on a dish somewhere or anything like that. But it passes packets, IP packets, and it can do the same thing for audio and video. For those who have Iplink, have seen this before. The user interface is very similar, except it's just multiple channels, and the fact that it can do maybe a couple audio channels, and it can also do video channels at the same time. So it's got a lot of different options built into it. You know, AS3, 67, BB192. You can see the laundry list of things. We've been working with other manufacturers as well, like WheatNet, Livewire, Dante, so that it can pass all of that audio, and then as well as ATSC 1 and 3. We actually did a test on ATSC 3 going up into the cloud, oddly enough, to the tech center in Denver, out to the test market, which was not in Denver. I can't share that, but it worked great. It passed all the tests and measurements and specs for ATSC 3. So that really opened up a big door of opportunity for us with the future of television and what's going on there in terms of how broadcasters want to distribute the video signal. It can also go point to point, point to multi-point. An example of this is we worked with the state of Wisconsin Public Radio. They did like 3 of these, one at their main, one at their backup, and one at their hub, and they were able to network, push the audio all around to those various locations through the Ascent. And then it has different types of streams: multicast, unicast, multi-unicast. Does a couple different protocols. Is anyone familiar with the term SRT? It came from the TV side, stands for Secure Reliable Transport. It does a lot of latency mitigation, and so we developed that into this product as well. So with very, very low connection types, the SRT kind of kicks in and gives it a boost. Capacities there, lots of capacity, up to 50 megabits of source rate per stream. And we continue to test the servers that we're using, at least, to see how many streams we can fit into the box. So a lot of flexibility. How do we apply the Ascent in terms of real world market testing? And I picked the Chicago market just because we have, hold on a second here. There we go. Just because we happen to have a lot of user base in that market. And so when I talk to various folks, maybe technology savvy or not, this is a really easy way to illustrate it. Basically, whether you have radio stations or TV stations, one head-end point, that can go out to all kinds of different site types, whether it be multiple low powers or maybe a HD liquid cooled to a booster or translator. It takes care of sending all of those signals, and if it's let's say it's 94.7, it can send out as fully linear audio, or it can send it out as Opus audio, multi-code to multiple locations from one input. So the real point of just kind of sharing this with you guys is so you can see the flexibility of the product and how it relates out there to multiple sites. In terms of Applique Applications, this is really building on the Intraplex ecosystem. So on the studio side or the head-end side, you would have Intraplex, or you could have an IP link, or you can have an HD link. So our 950 radio or our IP codec or the Ascent, any of those will work. If you're using the Ascent, then that would go out and over and go back and hit a receive point. So the receive point could be MPX audio, it could be fully linear audio, it could be a single or dual channel, it could be our new half rack codec, or it could be a card that goes into one of our radio exciters. So that IP card can go right into the back of the fax exciter, or you can have your 950 STL configured as IP only, and then put a codec on each end, and that way you're using your 950 license to push your signal across, running it in IP mode and putting the codecs on each side, and then marrying that up with maybe another IP, public internet or whatever, and then you have multiple streams going to your destinations. So we kind of talked about what it's compatible with: AES67, WheatNet IP, and Livewire. So that kind of takes us to the product line, some of the things that we touched on. So we've got our IP Link series, multiple AOIP formats, stream splicing, multiple network ports. We've included SRT now in the latest software. And then there's GPIO and all of the USB backup type of functionality. We have a product that probably isn't so popular in the broadcast world. We use this mainly in fire life safety, so like 911 call centers, where we need to push a lot of stuff in a very secure method, and that can be also data and encrypted type of communications. But it can also be used if you don't need an audio codec, you just want to have a really nailed up secure type of duplex box. And then we talked about the Ascent Media Gateway a little bit. It can run through our device. We're also working on a software-only application, which is kind of cool. I don't know when that's going to be released yet. To be able to push stuff out through the cloud like we've been testing. And then there's the Iplink 100C. So this is kind of instead with the barracks solution. How do we have something that is a half rack that you can take to a event or a sporting, whatever, put these out at stadiums, that type of thing. That's our compact single channel. And then I kind of touched on the 100E. That's the IP card that goes into our exciter. And that's also backwards compatible with all of our existing transmitters that are out there. So that's a pretty cool feature. And then our HD link that we've had out for probably 5 or 6, 7 years or so. So pretty much any kind of connection that you have, depending on what it is, we can find a solution to take care of making sure it's secure. So some of the benefits, it's simplistic. HTML dashboard, there's no operating system that these guys run. There's the SNMP integrations, quality of service tools, so we can check. It's just an app that runs on your computer. The quality of service that you're being provided, it will show when it slows down, when it picks up. And you can also go back to your service provider and say, hey, look, this is my reference of service. You guys have to improve because I'm having issues with connectivity at these times during the day or whatever. And then it has multiple codec options built in. In terms of flexibility, you can use it as a point-to-point, or you can use it as a point-to-multi-point, or like in the case of Wisconsin Public Radio, they're using it as multiple to multiple, and then it can grow with expansion. So a lot of folks that actually have been interested in this have come back and say, hey, I've got like 8 IP links, but I want to try the Ascent. No problem. We can take the 4 that are at your studio, pull those out, put the Ascent in. You can use those 4 now as receive sites or receive ends for other locations or whatever. So it definitely can be expanded with. In terms of value, there's built-in redundancy under the hood, redundant power supplies and things like that. Other codec options, we have multi-codes, one source, and then there's local support. If you guys have ever heard of Gates Air, we've been around for a while, and our support's based in Cincinnati or Quincy, Illinois. Integration, as I mentioned, it works with our FM exciters. It's also compatible with AES, Livewire, WheatNet IP. It's compact and it's standalone. And then kind of the biggest thing that I talk to owners and stuff like that, how do I recoup my investment? And it's interesting, I had a call with someone who's on the NAB board last week, and they said, yeah, the project that we are both mutually working on, the payoff on that, like it pays for itself in the first year. So they're able to shed and streamline their IP infrastructure, and with the products that we provided them, they paid for themselves in the first year. That was pretty cool. One, it simplified things. It limited on the on-site maintenance for their engineering guys. Now they can monitor everything locally from one central point or NOC, and then it allowed them to add on to their infrastructure in the future. So, and then lastly, there's layers of security. I kind of mentioned that we do a lot of stuff with fire life safety, 911 call centers, the FBI, the FAA, and so they put into place or requirements in their scope to us that there's all these layers of security. And so because of that, we roll that into the product line for the broadcast side too. And of course, free support. That's always good. I've seen a couple questions here. Let's see here. Does the IP link support SRT and multi-channel audio plus intercom? Multi-channel audio, yes. SRT, yes, is on the IP link, and the intercom I'd have to get back to you on. We did a test between Calgary and Vancouver, and the broadcast group had their own dark fiber connection. They wanted to use the IP links for talkback and stuff like that. So I don't know if that qualifies, but it worked out great, and it worked out while they're on the air, and they tested it for about 2 months, and it seemed to be a good fit for them. So, but I can get back to you on that. If you want to send me an email, I think most of you have my email, but it's nick.vanhaaster@gatesair.com. So if you have any questions, send me that, and I can dig a little bit deeper later. Other than that, stay in touch. We've used LinkedIn. It's good for product releases and field installations, stuff like that, training, things that we're doing. And we keep actually growing, as you guys have seen, if you have IP links and now the Ascent and ATSC3 and all that it's becoming to be. We keep developing and building on that software. So it's not going away. It's a product that we want to keep leveraging in the future. I try and keep it right around 20 minutes, so hopefully I didn't go over time or go too fast. But at this point, I think that's it. Dean's asking, IP only HD link, what's the bandwidth on that? I want to say it was like 3.2 megabits. I had a call earlier today, but email me, Dean, and I'll verify for sure. If you were asking, it popped up and it went away. If you're asking if it's an IP mode only. So yeah, IP only. Yeah, you did. Okay. So yeah, we can push a lot through that, and then marrying that up, of course, with the IP link. So we call that the hybrid system. We've been actually, oddly enough, the hotspot for that configuration, the 950 STL HD link configured in IP mode with the IP links on each end, Alaska. There have been like 3 or 4 systems in the last couple months. And main reason is it's desolate. There's nothing between the 2 points. So they're using the 950 as their own dedicated connection. And then there's a WISP provider up there that they're using for the second redundant stream. So it seems like it's a pretty good solution, and they seem to like it. It works well for them. Any other questions?
Hey, Nick,
yeah.
There was one that just popped up there and it went away, looked like.
I think it was, does the IP link support SRT? Yes, it does. In the last rollout of software, we brought everything up to speed with SRT, except HD link.
Tell you what, you can't do radio anymore with just a transmitter and a microphone and a turntable.
Yeah, it gets complicated. Last week, the NFL backhaul network said that they were ceasing operation or something that prompted a whole bunch of changes, and the IP links ended up being a fit for them. So it's pretty interesting. Actually, the Westwood One guys are out of Denver, so we've been talking to them about possible solutions using the IP link stuff. And last year we worked with the NFL to do all the backhaul audio as well with IP links. So, it's funny. I'm always surprised by what the client base and broadcasters how they find, the right fit to use our products. So if you guys have any stories, please share them. But say that again, Paul.
No,
your fancy microphone. I don't know.
I don't know what's going on, man. Well, Nick, thank you very much, dude. Very good.
Thank you.
Appreciate you taking your evening here and in doing this for the group, and we're all glad to see you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I hope to get out there soon in person. We'll see. Things are improving, I think.
Yeah, I think they're improving, and yeah, it works with Zoom. Don't know what's going on, Paul said. So, oh, doggone it. Well, there you go. Any other questions or comments then from the group? I see a lot of shaking heads. Well, just to let you know, we're going to be trying to do some, like I said, some pretty cool stuff coming up over the next few months. We've got some other programs lined up next month. We're going to try to have a program here for the SBE group on severe weather and how that affects broadcasters and everything. My friend Matt Kasovich, K0LWC, who looks after our Colorado Severe Weather Watch net on our Iplink ham system, is going to be presenting then. We're going to have a grounding, as far as the SBE side goes, grounding seminar coming up, I think in June. And then in July, those of you who know Ray Uberekin, with the communications down in Colorado Springs, they have a big 60-foot astronomical radio astronomy dish down in Haswell, southeast of Pueblo, and he's going to be giving us a presentation on what they're doing with that. So some fun stuff in the summer. And Jason or Chris, can you maybe cover some of the things we've got coming up on the SMPTE side? Hey, Chris, send me that spreadsheet. That was good. I'd like to integrate that into my stuff so I can keep it. But Chris, over to you.
Yeah, so like in 2 weeks' time on the 28th, we've got a presentation from our friends at AWS on a really ambitious project they did called Found Lederhosen. Funny name, but really cool thing they did with a bunch of partners on production in the cloud. So that should be kind of interesting. We're looking at, in the month of May, having a friend of ours, Al Kovalik, talk about timing, and he's going to call it a brief history of the second, which should be interesting. Al's always very entertaining. Then in June, we're looking at a little bit more on virtual production and Unreal Engine. Date to be determined on that. And then in July, we're trying to line up around, since the Olympics should hopefully be taking place then, lining up a special guest or two to talk about Olympic production and some of the interesting stuff that goes on there. Then in August, we're trying to line up a joint program with the Women in Engineering group. So a topic to be announced on that. And then in September, Jason is working on lining up something for us on machine learning. So pretty diverse set of topics when you look across all the SPE and SMPTE stuff we got going. So, and if any of you have ideas for other future events, we're looking actively for those. And I do know that we are looking very much forward to when we can do some of this stuff in person and maybe doing, I know Tom's down here and he's looking at setting up an in-person tour for us of the Buell Public Media Center. So anyway, yeah, we're always eager to hear your input on what you think would be interesting topics to hear about, and glad to see everybody on here, and let us know if we're doing a good job for you or not, and if not, our ears are open for any suggestions you've got.
Yeah, and another one we've got coming up, and I forget which month it is. I think it's toward August or September anyway. But Don Backus from Roden Schwartz is going to be back in here. I think he visited Denver a couple of years ago. But last year I had a major project where I installed 2 of the Roden Schwartz liquid cooled transmitters down at Rye, Colorado, and of course Chris and Amanda are well familiar with how I struggled with Rye for probably about 5 years. But these 2 transmitters have really made just all the difference in the world. That site now just sits down there and acts like a radio station. It actually runs and stays on the air at full power. And Roden Schwartz is really kind of amazing because we had one problem with an amplifier module in the KLCX transmitter, which is putting out right around 28.03 kilowatts TPO, I think, off the top of my head. And they've sent us a new module for that. Of course, I've got to get it up there. It weighs 150 pounds, and I really can't pull it up on a hand sled to that site. So we're waiting for the snow to melt. But they're also going to come out. Lee, whose last name I can't remember at the moment, is going to come out and do a complete upgrade on the power supplies that they just came up with for those transmitters. So you'll hear a report from me, and maybe even a little a presentation on that with some pictures of the 2 Roden Schwartz transmitters we have down there for KWRY, KLCX. So I might do my own little presentation here coming up down the line here towards the end of the official presentation. And I want to thank Amanda. Amanda's going to, Amanda and myself and her sidekick for Crawford, Keith, we're going to try to do some updating and redoing of the SMPTE SBE 48 webpage. So look for some changes there. And we'll be keeping real up to date on what's going on with that there on the front page, so you can see some of the upcoming events. So Amanda, thank you so much for your time and help and everything that you're collaborating with here. Sure appreciate that. So with that, guys, I ain't got no more. Anybody else want to chime in? Any reports, any comments, any questions, anything at all? Love to hear from Paul, but his mic don't work. Paul, you might want to call an engineer. Come in there, maybe help you with that. And of course, now he's going to hit me. So, and that'll be a hit, and I'll just have to take. So, anyway, any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, Nick, thank you very much again.
All right. We'll see you guys. Have a good night.
We'll see you next time. Have a great night.
All right.